Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is actually a very risky movie to make because that original Jumanji is a childhood classic. It's a movie that people grow up with, and it is one of the best childhood movies that you can ever think of seeing. In fact, if you haven't seen Jumanji, that's just, what are you doing? What are you doing? So this is about four new kids: a nerd, a football jock, an Instagram obsessed person, and a social introvert. These four people are in detention because class has gone horribly wrong and they're getting some chores done around school, and they find a game cartridge which is the updated version of Jumanji. Basically, the game has transformed from a board game into a game cartridge. And so they decide to play this game, and they get transported into the game as playable avatars played by Dwayne Johnson, Karen Gillan, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black. And they have to find a way to get out of the game, and they have a very interesting way of doing this, which actually is probably my favorite part of this movie, because I walked into this film very, very, very worried because this could have broken me if it was terrible. And surprisingly, it's pretty enjoyable. It's not a great movie, not even close, but it's still a ton of fun to watch after a certain while. The film takes a while to get going. I will say the first 20 minutes of this were absolute cringe material because I know a lot of people who are like that. When you see that represented in this movie, it just kind of bothers you. It's like, I don't want this anymore. I have enough of this. Otherwise, that's just a personal pet peeve that I had. Aside from that, I mean, it kind of captured high school perfectly. Once the characters are in the game and once you get all of your main characters together, then the film gets really pretty fun, actually. Dwayne Johnson is charismatic as always. Kevin Hart's pretty funny in this. Karen Gillan was great. I thought she was probably the best part of this entire movie. And I thought Jack Black was also really great. He actually had a lot of humor to add to it, despite the fact that it could have been a very bad way of doing it, because he's essentially playing this Instagram obsessed girl who I mentioned earlier. So there's an interesting way they've handled that. There are some interesting twists along the way regarding how they each have 3 lives in the game, and how if they lose each life they're gonna actually die, not just in the game but in reality as well. And there is a villain in this movie who was after them this entire time, looking for this certain artifact. Except in this movie, the villain is nowhere near as memorable as the one from the first movie. He's kind of lame, actually. He's one of the weakest parts of the entire film. And he really wasn't that interesting at all. Actually, I couldn't have given a damn about him at a point. The film has some really interesting action sequences as well. And there's some actually good CGI work here as well. It looks really good. And there's some really good humor to be had here. And the way it kind of gives this 2017, 2016 feel to it, and it updates it into this current world, is actually pretty great. There are some really awesome updates they've made to the game. They haven't tried to rehash the entire thing from the first movie again. There are some similarities though. That's another thing in the movie which is a little distracting, is that there are similar plot beats at points, like, oh, that's okay, that's a little bit like that first movie. A little bit. But aside from that, it's very much its own film. It's not trying to be better than the first one. It's a follow-up to the first one. There are references made to the first one, which I thought were really clever. There was a nice little thing they do for Alan Parrish, which was really sweet. And as a whole, the movie did what it had to do. It was a fun, enjoyable film with a lot of good action, some very good performances, some nice comedy, some nice CGI, and some very great handling on how to update this for a new generation of people who haven't seen the original film, who should have seen the original film. Just seriously, that is a film you gotta watch. As it stands though, there's really nothing more I can say about the film except it does what it needs to do, and you should see it. I wouldn't say it's like the one thing you have to run out and go see immediately, but it's definitely worth watching if you give it a chance. I'm gonna give Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle a 7 out of 10. Perfectly enjoyable film. It has its really high points, it has its low points as well, but it does the trick for the most part. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. If you like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.